All right, thank you for staying with the State of the Nation. The discussion is ongoing, and my guests are with me in studio at 2 p.m. We expect the President to address the nation from Parliament on the State of the Nation. We are taking a preempt of what that should be, what his focus should be. And my guest already with me here, Honorable Professor Tom Ojienda, Senator for Kisumu and member for the National Security Committee at the Senate. Thank you for making time. We have Honorable Nelson Koech, Member of Parliament Belgut, and also the Chair, National Defense and Foreign Relations. Thank you for making time. Charles Owino is here. He's the head of NCC, which is the National Communication Center. Asante for making time. Willis Otieno, Deputy Party Leader, Safin, and Advocate of the High Court, and also Honorable Joe Nyutu, Senator for Moranga. Thank you for making time. And Prof, we were talking about the two issues here. What the President should be addressing at 2 p.m., but also there's something that came out that Koech is saying that you should vote along party lines, and if you don't, you should be removed. Is that a fair position?
Trevor, let me just in response, before I respond to your questions, in response to what Willis of Safina said, you called him Deputy Party Leader, I believe, of Safina. Trevor, we must demystify the state of immigration within East Africa, even as we deal with the Besigye issue. We, all Kenyans, have East African passports. And that is one huge step towards the integration of the East African community. And therefore, that means that movement within East Africa is therefore open to every East African without discrimination. And that makes it difficult, for instance, to stop a Ugandan, a Kenyan, a Tanzanian from moving to the next country. So that explains the possibility that these Ugandan mercenaries who came in to abduct Besigye would have just come through using the East African passports. They came through, they drove in and left with him. So that's one issue. So that's why I said this is more of an East African issue than a Kenyan issue. And so you cannot and should not blame the apparatus here on how movement in East Africa. In any event, we have you remember in 2015 we have the protocol on the free movement of persons, goods and services within East Africa, moving towards the federation. You know, we are moving in stages within the integration process as contemplated by the Treaty for the East African Community 1999. Now, apart from that, let me move away from that technical bit. On the other question that he said, that we had abductions for these individuals from Turkey, we then said it was clear that 3 or 4 of those Turkish nationals were released when the security forces found that they had passports from the UK. They were released. I think Willis did not mention that. But let me go to your issue. The President today will be addressing several questions. Some of those questions were raised by the Catholic bishops. Number one, the state of the economy. That is top of the list. We have seen economic growth of up to about 5.2%. And that must be addressed. He must address the success of the affordable housing project. So far, a lot of houses have been constructed. Of course, there have been a few hitches here and there in terms of delays, but he must report on the progress. There have been several court cases. Many of them have been concluded. He must address and will report on the state of security in the nation. And that's an important aspect because the safety of Kenyans is top of the agenda of the President. He will address that. Fourth, Trevor, I must say, the President must also address the relationship or the interrelationships amongst the organs of government, the judiciary, the executive, and Parliament. And I think Parliament has delivered. And I think he will be addressing what and how Parliament executive and the executive ought to relate. That relationship is very important. But let me also say this, Trevor, that Joe Nyutu is now shouting loud, fearing a removal from a committee. It should not be a big concern. I think every member of a political party, and by there I belong to ODM, knows that in the event that a party gives direction, if there are any directions, you need to comply with those directions. If there are directions that are given. Absolutely. If there are directions that are given.
No.
And I'm not saying
look who's talking.
Any directions were given. I know Willis will address my previous issue with the party, but I think then there are no directions. I do not know whether Ruto had directions, but the Honorable Senator for Laikipia resigned from membership of the Parliamentary Service Commission. I think you know that. He resigned. He was not removed. I do not know what other issues are there, but he resigned. So in Senate, we treat him as an individual who gave up his position, fearing a possible removal. Ruto chairs the Education Committee. The honorable thing that Ruto should do is just leave the committee and resign. The other senators from your region who can chair that committee.
Why should he?
And I think no, he's already scared. If you believe that you cannot deliver on the throws of your party, and I think that his fear is that he cannot, if you think that those policies don't resonate with you, I think the best thing is to take a walk and be independent. There are many independent. He's talking about independence. If he's talking about independence, then the choice of a path of independence must be preceded by a resignation. Independence means defiance. And I think that's what Joe is telling us this morning.
Okay.
Senator, I encourage you. Many of us do not chair committees, but we are alive. It is a good thing. You could just move out.
I'll have my time.
And we will, yes. We will.
Charles, what should the president focus on this afternoon? Because Prof talks about a stable economy, state of economy. Is it really stable?
Thank you so much, Trevor. First of all, we must look at the state of the economy as at mid-2022, just before we went for elections and just before President William Ruto took over government. What was our state of the economy? Kenyan's debt stood at 70% of our GDP, and that is above 55% of the safe net. And there are some amendments coming up that will deal with this issue of the safe net. At the same time, our debt allocation repayment crossed 50% of the tax revenues. So we had a serious debt distress, and Kenya risked defaulting in paying external loans. Equally, we had challenges because much of the money had been allocated to debt repayment, and therefore even money for allocation to our disbursement of money to counties was quite a big and a huge challenge. And when disbursement becomes a huge challenge, then it has a lot of implications, especially on the lower level of people who are doing business with counties, those who are employed with counties, and so on and so forth. So we were in a very serious situation. You remember the prices of goods were very high. The biggest issue as at the time of election was unga. Everybody was talking about unga. There was an attempt by government to subsidize unga, which later we also learned was not even paid for, and the current government had to pay for it. So the government will be the president will be looking at some of the things that he has done to ensure that we manage this. Remember, he promised last year to pay the Eurobond, which he has done. He promised to add more money to judiciary, about 3 billion, which has been done. He promised to pay sugars. Professor Jenda comes from an area where we had a lot of challenge with sugarcane farmers who the government owed a lot of money, which has so far been paid. And he also has his manifesto for Kenya Kwanza on issues of agriculture, issues of affordable housing, health, SMEs, digital superhighway, and issues of security, issues of governance, issues of foreign relations. So he has a lot to discuss and show us the much that he has done so far. So I think as at mid-June 2022, if we will be honest as Kenyans and look at the situation where we were and things that have been done to put us at the place where we were currently, then I think he has a lot to discuss and Kenyans have a lot to look at that. But before I leave, I wish to get into this story between our members of parliament on what we call, sometimes we have what we call the best practice of politics. For example, when the deputy president went through impeachment process, we know our politics. Our politics here is still a bit regional, a little bit tribal, and so on and so forth. So sometimes you come from a region, if you're not properly principled, you can come from a region and you will have to follow the wave just to sustain your position. Maybe you want to remain a member of parliament, you look at what your region is saying, and you go by it. So what I say is, he gave a very good example that you are looking for a girl, you've gotten the girl, why should you follow
the boy who refused to call the girl?
Yeah, the boys who refuse to call the girl. But you see, if this boy continues telling this girl quietly that you are ugly, he still sending the girl. This guy is ugly. This guy is broke. Are you getting me? This guy is not royal. He's still, the party which has taken them to parliament, this party has a manifesto. This party must do certain things. Even in cabinet, there's what we call collective responsibility. If you disagree, if you are in cabinet and you have agreed and you voted, even if you are dissenting, you just dissent. But when you leave the cabinet, you have to speak the same language of what has been agreed. If not, you resign. So in good practice is, if you are principled and you think from your region or the person you really support has been removed from office, and if there is a feeling that you may not deliver, you may sabotage that government to give an opportunity for another person, the best thing to do, if you are really principled, is to resign. But if you are able to demonstrate that you will be able still to work with your party in what they require, it's not dictatorship. Those are just principles of best practice of politics.
Okay.
So I'm not in disagreement with the senator to resign or not to resign. It will be his choice. But you cannot remain in the committee and you attack the government.
Okay.
Yeah, it won't work. It won't work.
If
you don't resign, you'll be removed.
Okay.
You must be ready.
Willis, what should the president focus on? Because we're all talking about the state of the economy, that there's been improvement, but has there really been improvement when the poverty index shows that Kenyans are suffering even more now? We're talking about the state of security. Kenya National Commission of Human Rights says 28 people abducted are still missing. We're talking about interrelationship between government agencies. The CJ herself, Martha Koome, said her budget has reduced by 50% progressively. She's unable to even carry out some of the duties that the judiciary should. What should the president focus on? Has there been any improvement? I'll be putting up some of the excerpts from what he said last year and now.
Today it's more painful than last year was. And just go through the litany of what Kenyans are going through today. Number one, as I speak now, there's a Kenyan who is unable to access healthcare services because Chief Shah has failed. And he was previously in NHIF that could take care of him. Number two, William Ruto has attempted to bring in Adani Group into Kenya. Adani has now been indicted by the US New York court as somebody who was engaged in acts on corruption. In fact, there's now a warrant of arrest on Adani. He will find safe custody in Kenyan State House, while in the US, he belongs to jail. Number three, the killings of Gen Zs. We lost over 67 Kenyans killed by police officers. To date, we've not seen accountability. Not a single officer has been arraigned in court to answer for the deaths of these young people. Number four, we have abductions going on in this country. Many Kenyans have been abducted, have been forcefully disappeared, and the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights has documented all these instances of abductions and forced disappearances. Number 5, we have the botched Haiti mission. When it started, this was a US-Kenya mission, a mission that now we are told is now the burden of the Kenyan taxpayer to pay for it. We didn't have any interest in Haiti. In fact, as it is today, there is not even a single coin that we trade between Kenya and Haiti. Why should we send our police officers and spend our own money on an Haiti mission? Number 6, we have the refoulement and extradition of foreign nationals. Kenya has now turned to become a playground of foreign mercenaries who come into this country. They take anybody they want out of this country. They don't recognize our sovereignty, and the commander-in-chief does not defend the sovereignty of the people of Kenya. Number 7, we have a parliament that has failed. These parliamentarians, these ones, were cancelled by the people of Kenya on the 25th of June 2024, just because they don't listen to the voice of the people. They don't represent the people who voted for them anymore. They now represent the executive. When Kenyans go to them and tell them, 90% of Kenyans, we reject this particular bill, these parliamentarians ignore the voices of Kenyans and decide to go the route of William Ruto or Kenya Kwanza. To them, Kenya Kwanza is greater than the people of Kenya. They've lost their mandate.
They've talked about party position.
No, that's what I'm saying. To them, the party is greater than the people of Kenya. When you are sitting as a parliament, you are not sitting as a parliamentary group of a political party. You are sitting as a sovereign body that is in charge of representation, oversight, and legislation on behalf of the people, not on behalf of your political party. Number 9, we are witnessing a total collapse of the Kenyan economy as we speak today. More people are losing jobs than they are gaining. In fact, companies are all declaring, most of them are now declaring redundancies. It is actually a surprise. The only group that seems to be declaring profits are banks. And banks are declaring profits because they are trading with the Kenyan government on odious debt. They are taking illegal debts using taxpayers' money, and they come back to the same taxpayer to collect taxes to pay for those higher interest rates. Number 10 is the issue of odious debt. These ones have overseen a collection of illegal debts by the executive, where you are seeing debts being taken by Kenya government that are not applied to any particular project. And Parliament is quiet. Parliament has not even approved domestic borrowing. Parliament has not approved some of the illegal foreign debts, external debts that they're taking. And when you talk about Eurobond, that William Ruto managed to avoid the debt distress, no. What happened was Eurobond was before at 5.6% interest rate. They did a refinance at 10.5% interest rate. If you thought the problem was paying interest of 5.6, you went and took an interest rate of 10.5. It is even more. So you actually exposed the country more. And debt is taxed in advance. Number 10, we have a Supreme Court. Number 11, we have a Supreme Court that seems to be out of touch with the people of Kenya. What the High Court, what the Court of Appeal passes, Supreme Court seems to have its own constitution. Number 11, we have a legacy of lies. Now, the summation to me is this. William Ruto needs to do the Kenyan people the honors. Today, at his State of the Nation address, he should say, I'm sorry, I have failed you, I have not lived true to your constitution, and the most I can do as a law-abiding citizen who respects this nation and the people of Kenya, I tender my resignation as your president. Can you choose somebody else who can live by your constitution? It is not me.
Okay, Joe, 11 strong points. What should the president focus on? And now you can respond to Prof. Who says you should resign?
Trevor, allow me to first respond to the very many responses that have especially regarded to what I had said. The Honorable Nelson said that the second deputy president should just report to the police if he has any case of people following him up. But then that's funny. I mean, is the police following you up? You report to DCI. DCI are the police.
They're the ones following
you. I don't know how then that
is counterproductive.
Done. But the most, but one thing that I want to pick with the member for Belgut, whom I have a lot of respect for, he says that Rigiji unleashed the police on the young men and branded them Mungiki. I mean, Nelson Correa knows better. I mean, so he's trying to tell us that the second deputy president was commanding the police. So then he's confirming that the police are instructed by people in authority. Because if Rigiji, as deputy president, could command the police, could unleash the police against young men from a region, whom he branded Mungiki, then he's confirming that actually the police are on the loose and they are being commanded from somewhere, and he should tell us where, because then he has confirmed that the police, and as chair of security, should be very concerned that the police then are not independent, which would then be very unfortunate. And I would have wanted to hear Professor Ojienda and Honorable Koril tell us, say something about who did police officers arresting people. They have avoided that. They don't want to talk about, because it's unfortunate. I would want them, if you give, to respond to that.
Yeah.
Where do you place hooded police officers? Where are they hooded? And Charles Owino, who was a police spokesperson and a police officer, should also maybe chip in and tell us which place hooded police officers have in modern day Kenya. But the other thing that is of concern, the Honorable Koech, we call him Sonko. The Honorable Koech says that when you don't subscribe to the ideals of the political party, then you should be removed, and that if you don't vote on the lines of a party, on a party position, and we have a party position, it's true. But then, a party position on removal of somebody, and I'm disappointed that Tom Ojienda, professor of law, has also supported that. Then Professor Ojienda, why were we having all these hearings in the Senate? If all we needed to do was to vote whether to remove the deputy president on the party positions, on the party position, on your side of the minority and on our side, then why did you waste all this time? Hearing evidence from Mutuse and other witnesses. Why did we have to do all this? Why did you waste all this time? We should have just said the party positions should have just been brought on day one, and we were, so UDA says all the members are voting to impeach the deputy president, instead of having all these charade. So, Professor, as a lawyer, surely you must have respect for procedure, legal process. You cannot say that the only thing that I'm elected to do in Parliament is to ask what the party position is and then vote. That actually I even suspend the use of my mental faculties. It's very disappointing. So, how do you make the removal of the deputy president a party position? Trevor, let's not hide behind people following party positions. I don't think I have even defied my party in any way. And I'm not scared about anything. But just see who this purge is going to, is targeting. It's not about those that went against the party. It is simple. It is people from Mount Kenya that are being removed. And why you see Professor Ojienda here very excited is because, of course, his party is very happy to see that they have been able to break a marriage and, of course, kicked one party out of the marriage and now occupy that party. And that's why there is that excitement. You can see the professor is very excited. So it is not a purge against people that are not in line, following the party position. It's a purge against the people of Mount Kenya for reasons better known to maybe Honorable Koech and Professor Ojienda. And although I'm taking, maybe I'm taking too much time.
Yeah.
I had Charles Owino, also saying that, that people maybe are supporting some positions only to survive in their political careers, only to survive in their seats. But Charles Owino, my brother, people are elected to represent those that elect them. That is why there is a provision in law that people do public participation. Because as senator for Murang'a, I'm elected to represent the people of Murang'a. So when there is a conflict between the party position and what the people of Murang'a want me to do, I think I should do what the people of Murang'a want me to do. So we are not taking this position just because the second deputy president came from our region. Yeah. We supported him because we have a duty to represent the voice of our people, and our people were very clear. Personally, the people of Murang'a were very clear that I should vote no. So it's not about political survival, it's about representation. Trevor, just give me some few minutes. You know, when you say that you should just follow directions or resign, then, I mean, why do we have do we have elections, by the way? Why don't we have a system where we get political parties who just nominate members, you know, to parliament, so that these members then just represent the political party ideals? Because why do you want to subject the people of Murang'a into electing a person whom then, according to Honorable Koech and Professor Ojienda, is supposed to only, you know, follow the party position? Why then don't we have a system? And Professor Ojienda, probably you can craft this a good law. We abolish elections. You just have parties who will nominate members, who then will just sing the party's song, and have no representation of the people. Professor Ojienda says that I'm afraid of being kicked out as chair of education. I want to tell you, facing you and all Kenyans watching, I do not fear being removed as chair of the education committee, because when I went to Murang'a and did my campaigns, by the way, I never asked the people of Murang'a to make me chair. Okay. I'm only chair because the people of Murang'a elected me. Okay. And so, I mean, there's nothing to fear here. All right. I mean, Trevor, we have gone through many things, but please allow me.
He's responding.
Please allow me. I'm responding because, you know, they said many things about me. You know, Charles Owino also said that when you attack the government, you must be removed. We are not attacking government. We are pointing out things that are not going right. Okay. I mean, we are not attacking government. And by the way, I would want to say, coming to the state of the nation, that it's not all gloom, anyway. And I'm not saying this to save my position as chair of the election committee. I'm ready for whatever decision is made. But it's not all gloom. There have been achievements, a few achievements.
What's not working?
Achievements have been made. Of course, the most pressing issues as of now, I think the transition from NHIF to SHIF either was hurried, because there is a gap, and that's why there are complaints. Okay. SHIF in itself, as a concept, is a good ideology, is a good thing, that especially because of the issue of taking of critical care, and you know, because of course NHIF had its limits, that you know, you are told you have exhausted your provision for the year or something like that. But then the gap that is there, and which the government should address very quickly, because Kenyans are dying, Trevor, because they do not have money. I mean, we should not have suspended the operations of NHIF before we were able to make a transition for everybody to SHIF. Because this is the gap. This gap
the most pressing issue.
Is the most pressing issue.
Talk about
the other thing is the new funding model. Yes. I mean, so many students still have a problem. Again, the new funding model, and I say this as an educationist, is also a very good concept in that it was crafted to be able to take care of those that would not afford even the 20% household contribution. It was supposed to, but then we have a problem with banding because the means testing instrument is a problem. So those are the most pressing issues. And then the economy and all the issues that the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, raised. Those issues should... Yes, there have been lies. I mean, it emerged yesterday that there was an MOU between Kenya Kwanza I think Kenya Evangelical Churches, that there was even going to be a ministry of, something with churches and somebody from the church appointed. I mean, that was an MOU. There is also another MOU that Rigiji presented. And, so there are many promises that have been broken, but it is not all gloom.
Okay.
Yes, lies have been there.
All right.
Yes.
Let me bring in Koech on this. And Koech, there's something that we need to address here so that we don't leave this panel with a facade that there's an attack against a certain part of the community. There's something John Ruto said, that this purge targets the people of Mount Kenya. I'd like you to clarify that, because the political ping pong shouldn't now start to alienate certain sectors of the societies and communities in Kenya. But also, what should the president focus on this afternoon?
To start with my friend Senator Joe Nyotu, the purge, like I said, in my view, and I don't know if it has been considered or if it is something that is on the works, but in my view, party position must count for something. Party discipline is paramount in Parliament, because it is on that reason that we campaign. It is on that reason that you go out there and speak to the people. You have the manifesto of the party that you chose to use to get into Parliament with. So if you do not at some point then agree with the party, like Honorable Jenda did say, the honorable thing to do is at that point to resign, because you are in conflict with the party. Party position is extremely paramount, so that when you agree on certain policies, we all campaigned, myself and John Nyotu, we had our agenda, and that is what we are working on, and those are the few issues that we have. Where we find that there are shortcomings from individuals, even in the executive, that is why there's a provision of impeachment. It is constitutional. So that if we feel that there is inadequacy in the office of the Deputy President, as a party, we must take responsibility and say, no, you have not lived to the dream of the party, and the best thing to do is to impeach you. And that is precisely why we impeach the Deputy President. It doesn't stop there. We will continue, exercising that democratic right. Where we feel that some of people in the executive are not performing their duty, it is our responsibility as members of Parliament to help the president. At that point, then, the people who count is the party, and that is communicated by either the leader of minority or the leader of the majority in National Assembly. It is standing order permits members of Parliament to be in committees. So no one is said to have lost everything when you're removed as a chairman. I'll tell you something. In last Parliament, I was a member of Defense and Foreign Relations Committee. When my policies and my arguments were in conflict with the party of the day, through the majority leader, then Kimunya, the president probably saw, or the party at that time saw, that I was not fit to be in that office, because it is a committee that holds extremely sensitive information of government of the day. Yeah. I was removed, and we were all bungled into a catering committee. 12 from my community were bungled into a catering committee, myself, Nixon Korir, and a few others. Actually, we would have transacted in Kalenjin in that committee if we wanted. So that is what happens, and it is democracy. Okay. On the issue of the State of the Nation address, Willie is extremely agitated and very, he seems to be worked up. Even explaining himself, is fiercely becoming a new crop of opposition. And I don't know why he's so worked up. He came here with a fixed mind on what he wanted to address, and he actually wrote them, and he had 9 points to address. 11. I want to tell 11 points to address. I left 3 because, yeah, we'll give you that opportunity. I want to tell Willie that even as you practice opposition, sometimes it is good to be extremely factual. Okay, number one, and I will start with this last one. He said that the only organizations that are making profits in this country are the banks. I want to inform Willis that if you've just visited Kenya, this year, Kenya Power, after a very long time, recorded massive profit. Yeah. This year, KenGen recorded massive profit in excess of 60 billion. This year, a once ailing Kenya Airways recorded profit. So many organizations are recording profits. Economy is extremely dynamic. I do not want us to view it on a very narrow scope. And an economist here, Owino, is around. I want to tell you where we've come from and where we are. In fact, if there is nothing else to credit for this government, the biggest thing and an achievement that we can record is avoiding defaulting. That is major in terms of economics. A lawyer will probably not see it from that dimension, but where I sit and where we came from, that is an extremely important step, making sure that we do not default like our neighbors in the region. Another very important thing is the State of the Nation address. Today, I hope the President will enumerate the successes of this administration. And in my view, we've succeeded in so many areas. Number one is agriculture, because I come from an agricultural constituency. I'll tell you this. First of all, the number of we've improved on value addition on milk production. That is very important, because there has been a deliberate effort by this administration to make sure that we improve on our value chain, to make sure that farmers, milk farmers, are able to reap from low cost of production. Number two is agriculture. Like it was said here before, I remember the first time when we were elected, when we came in here. Then Honorable Kiona was donning Sufria on his head in every maandamano. Today, no one speaks about demonstrations because of hunger. Why? It is because of the low cost of fertilizer. This government has been very deliberate in making sure that the fertilizer still trades at 2,500 shillings. That is an extremely important achievement. The President will enumerate that. In terms of housing, affordable housing, you will remember that the President said that he was also going to be very deliberate in making sure that we employ our young people, many young people out there. And he said the housing project is going to solve, is going in a very big way to manage that issue that we have. Today, as we are talking, Trevor, we have more than 160,000 young people who are employed in that sector, with about 110 units under construction. That, in my view, is an achievement, and it is gradual. Of course, this administration has challenges, and so those challenges, we've taken them very graciously, particularly those that were raised by the young people of this country, the Gen Zs, who other politicians and political desperados will want to use to ride on for their political gain. We had genuine concerns from the young people of this country. We had genuine concerns from the young people of this country, and not from the Kalonzos of this country, and not from the Willies of this country. We have young people who are Gen Zs, way younger than me, who came and brought issues that we feel, as members of parliament, we should address them. And that is why we, after the President rejected the finance bill, we become very deliberate on engaging them. We have so many tax amendment bills that are coming up. We, as members of parliament and the chairman of finance committee, have been going around the country so that we collect views from the public. What the young people of this country raised at that time has been factored in those tax amendment bills. And finally, on the health sector, the challenges that happened, just like when we transitioned to free primary education in 2003, during the Kibaki era, there were lots of confusion. It is unfortunate, and I've even been affected myself by this transition from NHIF to SHIV. I think these are just small challenges that can be sorted, and that requires patience from all of us. But all in all, this government is on a positive upward trajectory in most of its policies.
Is that statement true, Prof?
Can I pick from where Nelson has left on SHA and SHIF, the transition from NHIF to the Social Health Insurance Fund and the Social Health Act and the framework of health that is intended to achieve universal health care? I think, as Nelson has said, the transition has challenges, but those challenges will be solved or resolved for the better. I think the technical issues around the transition should not be misinterpreted for a failure of the system or that the system is bad. I think Joe has referred to that. Let me say this. Of the affordable housing projects that are there, 4,888 units are available for sale already, complete. And a lot of the projects, and Joe will, I don't know why he's talking about Central, are in Kandara, Bahati, Makenji, Chepalungu. In fact, the Thika units are ready, Ruiru, Isiolo, they are spread all over the country. And they have not only afforded the youth and other technical people in the housing sector an opportunity to render services, but have also contributed a lot to our employing or picking up some of our youth who are unemployed. I speak for the Kisumu project. I know the Mark Asembo project is on course, and I know how much it has input into the economy of my county. Let me say this. 4 days ago, Trevor, an advertisement was put in the newspapers for permanent secretaries. There are a number of positions that are open. I would encourage my friend Willis to apply so that he can represent Gen Zs within government. Safina,
I do not want to work in any space with Ruto and Kenya Kwanza.
Safina is an unparliamentary party. And Willis is here making a lot of noise when he has a chance to go into government and be part of the process so that we can see what they can do. Because, you know, it's so easy to make noise from out here. When you have an opportunity to go in again now, he does not want. Now, that's the problem. Trevor, a lot of issues raised by Gen Zs, I think, have been addressed, and the president will be on course to address some of these issues in the afternoon. And I will say this, that apart from the government institutions, Kenya Airways, we've seen KenGen, we've seen Siror's, KPLC, making profit, an upward trajectory in terms of economic growth is important. Why? Because it will help to solve some of the economic issues that we have. That will speak a lot to the cost of living. That will speak a lot to the reduction in the poverty levels. Now we were from 35.8 to 35.2. That is a downward trend in terms of poverty. I know that people say that money is not circulating as it should, but I think when Parliament finally unlocks the devolved fund, you know, we have a committee, our mediation committee, that is dealing with the impasse on what National Assembly has approved of 391 billion to the 401 billion that Senate approved, because Senate takes the view that more funds should be availed to counties. Okay. I know Minister Mbadi released some funds to counties just the other day, but it is instructive, and Senate takes the position that counties are the center of development. Okay. Counties are the center that is the engine that will enable money go into the hands of ordinary contractors in the counties, and therefore counties should get more money. Okay. And we hope, Trevor, that the committee can complete this mediation process so that our contractors in the counties can deliver within the framework of contracts that they have. Okay. So that we have money moving from the county to contractors, and we have some movement. Okay. And I hope that that will also be addressed by the president. All right. That the mediation committee led by Njoro and Roba should complete this process so that we have money unlocked. Lastly, let me mention this, that a lot has been said about the security of this country. Nelson has spoken to it. My friend Owino has spoken to it. It is instructive to note that it is not just the responsibility of the state to ensure safety of Kenyans, but it is also the obligation of Kenyans to also ensure that they keep safe. That's also an important aspect that we must note. And therefore, let us speak, let us share information. Within the constitutional framework that we have of free speech, if anything goes wrong, or if there's any abduction or arrest or things that are untoward, I think it's the duty of Kenyans to speak. And that is a space that we must jealously preserve.
All right, Charles, you know, you all refer to this growth in the economy, but we know that the Kenya Poverty and Equity Assessment Report indicates that poverty rate has increased by 6.5 percentage points from 37 to 43.5%. So in as much as you're mentioning that there are certain institutions making profits, Kenyans are poorer now.
Let me explain to you. In 1986, there was a sessional paper, number 1 of 1986. This sessional paper, number 1, indicated and warned Kenya that the population, the rate at which our population was growing, we needed to rethink on where to invest money. And they recommended that we should put more money in agriculture and put more money in SMEs. because the population was growing very fast, because they were giving a comparison that if you go directly to industrialization, the cost of creating one job may be so high compared to when you put it in agriculture and SMEs. One of the examples was the immediate when we did the firearms factory in Thika or Ruiru. We spent about 4 billion and created 100 jobs. That was about 40 million to create one single job. So what has happened is that our population has grown very, very fast at a higher rate. And what happened in the previous government, you remember after the Kibaki government, the Uhuru government, and now the Ruto government, we did a lot of borrowing, and much of the money went to the mega projects. And some of these mega projects, we are still not achieving much until they're completed. You know, the Lamu port, a very important port for us. It's a port for transshipment. It will compete the port of South Africa, of Koga, and give us a lot of money. You know about the SGR. Before the SGR reaches Kisumu or Malaba, it may not give us much because we need to use it to carry goods along the railway line. And you know we are competing regionally. For example, Tanzania. You know Tanzanian SGR is already in their capital center. And if it reaches Mwanza before we reach Kisumu or Malaba, then we are in for it because of competition. You know the amount of goods a 40-foot container would carry up to a maximum of 60 tons. But currently on our roads, we can only carry 35 tons. If there was time, I would do projections for that. So what we are saying is that a lot has happened. And that is why in the Kenya Kwanza manifesto for the current government, some of the priorities, the pillars the president had given was agriculture, health, housing, digital superhighway. Many people don't understand why we have digital superhighway. Why we're putting a lot of money on digital superhighway, cyber optic connectivity. We now have SHA. In SHA, we are going to use thumbprints. And you need internet and digital connectivity to avoid these issues of corruption that we had in the previous system. The distribution of fertilizer, you know very well, we are using the digital system. And many other issues that we have to use, even the e-citizen, where we are now collecting a lot of money through the e-citizen system. We need the digital superhighway. So digital superhighway is very important for us, and government is putting even more money on satellite. So issue of, if you see poverty, it is attributed to what has happened to us previously. This government is just 2 years. And I want to assure my brother Willis, because we are going to move into next elections, and I'm happy he's in opposition. And opposition is very important. That is why people fought for multi-party democracy, so that we can point on issues which you think are not good, and government can work on those issues. I just want to go back to issue of SHA and SHIF, which he said he had failed. The reason why the transition has taken place, there has been an attempt since 2000 for the universal health care. And I'm happy that the president has decided to hold the bull by its horns. I just told you that we borrowed a lot of money and put it on mega projects. And then there was fear of borrowing money. Nobody is strong enough to have taxation. People feared taxing Kenyans because definitely it would bring issues. But now, if you look at SHA, there was no way, if we wanted to transit, we had to transit now, because there were already legislations in place. We have the Primary Health Care Fund. We have the Emergency and Chronic Illness Fund, which have been brought in through Acts of Parliament. We have Facility Improvement Fund, which has brought in through Parliament. And this is taking place now. The difference is that as we bring in SHA, there must be teething problems. I was really concerned when I saw a situation where, because 46% of health facilities are health-based, are faith-based facilities. And I was asking myself a very simple question. These pending bills that they were talking about, that they were refusing to allow, to facilitate patients to be treated because government owed them money, did it just start 2 years ago? Or we have had these pending bills? You know, it's good to be moral. Okay. You can't chase away people because they are pending bills. But I'm happy government has paid almost 3 billion on this. But I want to tell you, the SHA SHIF should be our baby, and we must nurse it Why? Because we have a lot of opportunities in this. Before, in the previous health system, NHIF, we did not have the level 2, level 3, which were health centers and health centers and dispensaries were not included. Now we have them. We have the primary health care where you find treatment like malaria, testing of malaria, immunization of children are done for free. We also have emergency and chronic illness. I've always challenged people. You say, yes, you can go to Nairobi Hospital because you are a CEO, you are a senior person. What if you get an emergency in Lamu, you get an emergency Uko in Baringo? How will you be helped? Or you have a problem at home. So what we are saying is that we really need to support government in some of these activities. And I can assure you, Trevor, within a very short time, I can tell you within 3 years, the discussions will be completely different. We've done so well. And what I'm saying is, let's go back to factualities. I know my friend here is yearning to become a deputy president, and that is very good. Continue pushing government as much possible. Continue pushing government as much as possible so that we can continue also improving. Lastly, Senator, I have no problem with you. I did not mean bad. I just said what you have said is correct, that you are voted by the people of Murang'a, and people of Murang'a, if they are going a certain direction and you want to keep your position, you must go
with them.
And that is the position.
Let me say this, you know.
And also you've been asked to apply for the PS.
I want to respond to all of them. You know, Professor Jenda, Mheshimiwa Nelson, Charles here, Ruto, all these people, none of them uses SHIFSHA. All these people qualify. And they have a very comprehensive medical cover from Parliament that even if Ojenda has a cold, Ojenda will be flown to South Africa to the best facility to treat his cold. So they are here telling Kenyans how great SHIFSHA is. Why can't we have this debate at Kenyatta Hospital or Mbagathi Medical District? You go and see what Kenyans are going through. You know, don't be con men, because what you're doing, I'm sorry to use that word, my apologies, you're not con men. I was looking for a better word. Don't try to gaslight Kenyans that this thing is good, it's working, it's good for you, when you and your family, you'll be covered under a very comprehensive and very comfortable cover. And I like when Professor Ruto speaks. He says his main problem is SHIFSHA. It's something that the people are feeling. He's speaking from the ground. But these three wants to make it appear like everything is okay. Willis is just a whiner. You're just a complainant. I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm in WhatsApp groups of many Kenyans today who keep adding me, asking me to help raise funds. In fact, people even tell me, don't even give us the money if you don't trust us. Just go to a facility and pay for that directly. We will appear there to get cover. So don't try to tell Kenyans that SHIFSHA is good, that it will be better. Tell Kenyans that SHIFSHA is messing up their lives, and your administration has failed to come up with a workable redundancy period to make sure that the transition from NHIF to SHIFSHA does not cause a loss of life. Because those who've died in between, even if after 5 years or 2 years SHIFSHA works, their lives will never be recovered. Their lives they're gone. So you should have worked on the redundancy period to make sure that at this transition, we don't lose lives. Then the second thing you people talk about, that we've not defaulted in our debt. Look at the Constitution. What are the first charge? First charge of the Consolidated Fund, number 1 is debt. Number 2 is county. Number 3 is pensions. Those are the first charges. Pensioners have not been paid now more than 5 months. Is that not a default? It was a first charge. Counties, the fight is still going on. They are the ones begging for counties to be paid even as we speak. Is that not a default? Look at even some of the debts, the SGR debt.
It's not default, it's delayed.
No. It is default. The default simply means the fact that at the point when it is ought to be paid, you've not been paid. You've defaulted, even if you cure it subsequently. So there is already a default. But at what cost? At what cost? You are overtaxing Kenyans to pay for illegal debts. Debts that were taken without following the laws of this republic. Debts that were not applied to any project finance. Banks have given us 5.4 trillion shillings the last 12 years. Where is that project that is worth 5.4 trillion shillings in Kenya today? That you can tell us, we borrow from the domestic banks 5.4 trillion. These are the projects that those 5.4 trillion finance. It doesn't exist. And what did Parliament, yourselves, you don't even know what you approved. You people approved in 10 years of gender at you are not there. You approved 2.2 trillion. How was the debt 5.4 trillion in that period? In fact, today, you're telling us the debt is almost 11 trillion. So even Parliament, you need to do your work. You seem to pay more focus and attention on politics than doing your oversight duty. You don't even know that when you pass the Appropriations Act, how much have you approved for the government to borrow? This year alone, in terms of development finance, in your own Appropriations Act, was 300 billion. And of that 300 billion, your president goes out to say, I'm going to borrow 1 trillion because you've rejected finance bill. Where did you, as Parliament, pass that you are going to borrow 1 trillion? Because borrowing must get parliamentary approval. You need to understand and do your work as parliamentarians. Then I want to say this. If the economy is good, as you seem to imply, of course, for some of you, the economy is very good. And I look at your faces, you are very bright. Ojenda's suit is a brownie suit, is shiny. He's wearing a golden ring. Charles is looking at his best.
Are you naked?
So
are you naked, Willis?
No, the economy is very good.
No,
let me finish. You'll have your time. Please, relax. You'll have your time. The economy is very good for you three. Yeah. But for the Kenyan out there, we should be having this conversation at Jacaranda grounds, so that we meet the real face of Kenyans. As we are saying, Kenyans, your economy is very good. You've avoided debt distress. You have jobs. You are doing well. Hallelujah. Hosanna. Jesus is coming. That's the only thing you are waiting for. The real situation on the ground that Kenyans are going through. The real situation. Don't carry up your hands. You're talking you people put your hands down. When I was talking, when I was talking, when you were talking, I kept quiet. Can you learn to keep quiet and listen? Because I'm not saying these things to attack you. I'm saying these things so that you can internalize them. And when you go back to your offices, you make sure that you do that which the Kenyan people expect you to do.
Okay.
So I'm saying this.
Yeah.
When we talk about the sufferings of our people, about the economy, families are sleeping angry. I was just yesterday with the University of Nairobi student who was telling me at the School of Economics alone, they admitted 3,000 students. Only 500 have reported in this academic year. Why? Because they are not able to afford. Majority of them have been forced to defer their studies. They cannot afford the school fees because you are told for you to report, you must pay the school fees full, 52,000 shillings per semester. And you must, 52,000 shillings, that is for accommodation, and the school fees is 150,000 Kenya shillings. And HELB is only giving them 20,000. If you're lucky, you get 40,000.
Okay.
And so let me say this.
Yes.
These problems that Kenyans are dealing with are real life problems. They are facing them every day. Let's stop pontificating.
Okay. Newton.
Mm-hmm. I wish.
Yeah, I'll give you a chance.
Just a minute.
Let's just follow the order we had because we have five.
I'll give him my time, but let me answer him. Even my next round, give him, but let me answer him. I will forget.
Okay.
Allow
round.
Okay. Because he has said a lot of things. He's saying we are paying illegal debts. Once these debts had been taken by the previous government, they become the first charge. That is what is in the Constitution. He's a lawyer. He knows that. Okay. That can be addressed differently. He's talking about they don't know how much is appropriated, how much is designed for borrowing. I remember when the president came in 2022 September, there was a lot of hue and cry that he was borrowing a lot. And it is important that I give the projection on how it came about. 2022-2023 budget was done by the previous government. And when they looked at their deficit, what they'll be able to collect, and their budget, they had projected to borrow $1 trillion. So when the new president came in, he had to go within that budget projection. So anything the president borrowed when he came immediately into office was of a budget which was placed before he came in. Okay. Just listen.
No, you had borrowed sometimes.
No, just listen. Just let me finish. Because no, it is important I answer him.
Okay.
So when I will give him my time, let me finish with this.
There may be no time, because...
So, just a minute, let me finish. 2020, this is important. 2023-2024 budget.
Yeah.
What government did, they introduced taxation.
Okay.
When they introduced taxation, there was a bit of noise, but it went on. The government projection for borrowing was 700 billion. And that is what happened, a reduction of 300 billion from the previous budget. 2024-2025, the finance bill that we have rejected, our projection was increased taxation, base of taxation, and then now borrow only 500 billion. This bill was rejected. When it is rejected, then it means that the collections were not going to go as projected. So when the president says he will borrow $1 trillion, he's saying it out of a projection when these areas where we expected to get money was stopped.
That's clarified.
So that is the clarification. And I would want Willis, I know he's a sharp guy.
Yes.
I know he's a sharp guy. Let him follow factuality instead of propaganda.
Understood. Joe.
Thank you. And I think next time, just let Charles Owino know that you should hold your points until you get your time. Yes, because the program, I think time is almost up. But Trevor, let me say that, like I had said, it's not all gloom.
Yeah.
There have been some achievements, of course, by this government. And one thing that I'm very excited about is the employment of teachers in both primary and secondary school. It doesn't matter that some of them are interns, but at least we have seen very many teachers employed, 56,000 over the last 2 years, and recruitment is just about to be concluded. And that's an achievement that, of course, we must laud the government for. Then I think I like what the president did when he came into office, because there was all this noise about CBC. You remember that time that the plan was to domicile junior secondary school in secondary schools, and parents were not comfortable with that. The president moved in very swiftly and appointed the Presidential Working Party on education reforms, and that is something that we should credit the president for. Of course, his policies have brought the exchange rate for a dollar to about 129 shillings, because it's good to give credit where it is due. Of course, I'm trying to be very fast. Of course, cheap fertilizers, which have led to, bigger production, of food, and of course, contributing to food security. We are yet to be where we may want to be, but these are, progressive steps, Trevor. But of course, affordable housing. Of course, it's true that we can see these programs everywhere, even in Muranga, and it is true what they have said. But then this is not a popular project, especially because of the way that it reads, especially the pay slips of those that have a pay slip. And so I think it's important that even when we implement programs, that even if they are beneficial, then we need to carry Kenyans with us. Because if you do an unpopular project and still push and push on, especially raiding, like I've said, the pay slips of people, then it becomes a problem, and people may not be able to see the benefits that such a thing has brought. I think, Trevor, that one problem that we have as a government, and I mean this government, of course, Professor Jenda would want to say that some of us are not in this government. The Ajonis come lately, and we are here to stay. But I think we have introduced too many new programs at the same time. And I think that is why it's biting on Kenyans. And I think we may need to rethink about these things. And because I may not get more time, as I conclude, Trevor, both Honorable Nelson Koech and Tomoji and Charles Owino is also becoming a government operative, which is good. All of them are talking about resigning. I want to say, Trevor, I will wait until I'm removed as chair of education in the Senate, because I'm learning from the best. President William Ruto, when he was deputy president, and the differences between him and his boss were clear for everybody. Everybody kept telling him to resign. He did not resign. I'm learning from the best. I will not resign. So Nelson Koech, remove me. I will not resign.
Why is
William Ruto never resigned as deputy president. I'll push on until you remove me. So it's important to make that clarification because he's my party leader anyway, and I am learning from him. I'm learning from the best. Finally, Trevor, we need to, we should not trivialize our politics because when you make it appear that, removing the deputy president is supposed to be a party position, then we are trivializing politics. When you indicate in your argument, like Nelson Koech and Professor Ojeda did, that all I should care is the party position and not the people that elected me, then I think we are getting it wrong. And I think then there is something in the structure of our politics that is very ill and that needs to be cured. Because then, like I had said there before, we should not even have elections. We are just tiring our people for nothing.
Right.
Finally, and I hope that Professor Ojeda will listen and Honorable Koech will listen. I hope they watched the unfoldings in Embu on Saturday. That is how the ground is. Anybody who thought that you have now divided Mount Kenya into East and West, Embu is in Mount Kenya East, and everybody saw what it is. That Rigiji is king of the mountain. Whether you want it or not, whether you give him an opportunity to address the people or not, the people know that he is the king and they are waiting for his direction by January. And one thing is the government can succeed in intimidating parliament.
Yeah.
The government can succeed in intimidating the judiciary, but the government can never, ever succeed in intimidating the church. And that is why the recent events should be looked at by everybody and know that you cannot intimidate the church and you cannot isolate. Sudi isolated Bishop Muheria from the other Catholic bishops. Let us not follow that. Please listen to the church because this is a war you cannot win.
All right,
thank you very much, Trevor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Conclude the debate, Trevor.
Coming up next is Cooking Tips. Thank you so much for making time this morning. Bye for now.